Is Avatar The Last Airbender an anime? It occurred to me that I should tackle this question during my fourth rewatch of the show, as I'm writing a review for the show and how wonderful it is and all that good stuff. I was going to refer to Avatar The Last Airbender as an anime in that video, and I know I'll still get comments about how it's not actually an anime. Anime refers to anything made in Japan. Avatar The Last Airbender is a cartoon made in California, and the art studio is in South Korea. And it seems like there's a pretty vocal group of people who think calling Avatar anime is either downplaying the meaning of anime or simply missing the point that anime is Japanese animation. There's also the group of people in which I'm in who think Avatar The Last Airbender is an anime, because I mean, look at it. But the art style is not anime, I hear you saying. You're saying that art style is not anime because anime is a genre of art that encapsulates a lot of similar elements similar to different groups of art like postmodernism, cubism, and realism. Simply being drawn in its style is not indicative of that thing being that thing. Similar to how in Phineas and Ferb Summer Across the World, there's a scene where Phineas and Ferb go to Japan and get greeted by Stacy's cousins, and the characters go into a musical number wherein they are drawn like anime characters, but Phineas and Ferb isn't an anime, obviously. And that's true, but that was a Phineas and Ferb one-time gag, and Avatar is the entire style throughout its entire run. Avatar also shares a lot of similarities with other animes, such as serialized storytelling, and this is not to say that every anime is serialized in storytelling, but that most cartoons, in comparison, don't have the same sort of structure, such as SpongeBob SquarePants, Family Guy, The Simpsons, etc. One would consider those cartoons, but Avatar The Last Airbender simply doesn't overlap with as many similar elements in those cartoons as it does with anime. Josh, you're not using the right definition of anime. Anime is cartoons that come from Japan, or animation that comes from Japan. Anything that is not that is not anime. Case in point, Avatar is not anime. But if I use the Oxford Dictionary definition, it just says that anime is a style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children. It says nothing about anime having to be only from Japan, or that anime is purely Japanese. It just says that it's a style of Japanese animation. Kind of like how the kimono is a kimono, even if it's made in America. It's an American-made kimono, you can assume everything you want about it, but it's still a kimono. A kimono is Japanese, and a kimono is a kimono, even if it's made in America. It's just an American-made kimono. On top of that, a lot of animation for anime is typically outsourced to South Korea studios who do the animation. So this brings a whole host of other issues before we even delve into that. If to some people anime is where the show originated from, or created from, or the idea it was conceived in, then there's problems with that as well. Because if the creator of My Hero Academia, Kohei Horikoshi, is on a plane from Los Angeles to Japan, and he thinks of the idea of the series of My Hero Academia, it wouldn't have been an idea conceived in Japan, technically not being the idea conceived in Japan, therefore not anime. No, Josh, you're being too specific. Okay, fair point, but what if Horikoshi wasn't Japanese and had the idea to create that show but just happened to be in Japan? What if he was just some other person who wasn't ethnically Japanese but culturally was? Would it still be anime? What if he was ethnically Japanese but he created the show in America? Would it still be anime? What about the fact that studios like Studio Mir have worked on shows like The Legend of Korra, an American animated show? The show was created in America, but the show was created in South Korea. The Legend of Korra doesn't stop being an American show or an American cartoon because of where the animation took place. The Simpsons was worked on by Korean studios Sunwoo Entertainment, but The Simpsons is an American show. Coca-Cola is still Coca-Cola whether a factory in Lebanon makes it or China makes it. Anyone would pick up a can and say, "This is Coca-Cola," and they'd be right. The contents of the Coca-Cola don't matter, regardless of where it's produced. It's the same thing. But do you see what's happening here? We're arguing semantics instead of arguing what it actually is. What is anime? Well, it's a style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children. It's also animation from Japan. It's also a type of art style to some. It's not Phineas and Ferb, and it's not The Simpsons. Sometimes it's not even animated in Japan, arguably the fundamental aspect of the genre to a lot of people. These definitions are not mutually exclusive, they can all be right at the same time. Similar to how realism art can mean this, and this, they're not all the same painting, they vary widely, but they're all realism. The vagueness of realism encapsulates all of them and pushes out things like this for differences at the fundamental level. If someone makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, something that's arguably American, and they made it in America, then we'd be like, yeah, that's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And if someone in Spain then makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, we'd say, that's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Even if they, use different types of bread, it's still a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But being American isn't fundamental to the style of making the sandwich, you might argue. Fair point. Okay, but if someone makes a sombrero in Mexico, then it would be considered a sombrero. But wait, sombrero doesn't just mean this hat. It also means any wide-brimmed hat. That's the definition of sombrero. To Americans, sombrero would generally refer to this because that's how the word has been come to be represented in English, so it makes sense that we would relate it with that. So if we make this and call this a sombrero, is this a sombrero? The answer is yes. Sombreros are from Mexico, but this is still a sombrero, by definition and fundamentally. This is a sombrero, this is a sombrero, and this would still be a sombrero if you asked a Mexican if it was a sombrero. But Josh, if it's made in America, is it really a sombrero? Yeah, it is. We're arguing semantics otherwise. You can define a word however you want and leave out certain other definitions of the word that counter your original definition if you want, but anime isn't necessarily something that has to be from Japan. A sombrero is not something that necessarily has to be from Mexico. A Coca-Cola is a Coca-Cola here and there. And kimono made here is a kimono over there. Chinese anime exists, unless it's not anime because it's made in China, but it is anime. Look at it. If I didn't tell you this was made in China, would you have even cared? Tower of God is a Korean webtoon turned anime, but it was made in South Korea. Still an anime though. Whether you call something something else or not, by definition it is what it is. A Coke is still a Coke whether I pick it up here or there. I can say that this is just an imitation of this one because it originated from here, but it's still Coke no matter how I want to classify it. The contents are still similar enough and made the same way. The definition doesn't need anime to be only from Japan, even though most anime is from Japan. Avatar, like the kimono or the sombrero, is just American-made anime. So yes, Avatar The Last Airbender is an anime. Man, if you think this'll piss people off, wait till I tell them that webtoons are just manga.